It's the state of the dungeon! It's a video that Rob does about his games. Yeah! Time stop. How convenient. We dwarven wizards have the ability to narratively stop time. Whew. Well, I'll pause briefly in my pursuit of this here warrior masquerading as a wizard to detail the events that have been going on since we got to the Mere of Dead Men. So what happened was we got to the boundaries of the Mere of Dead Men and we made our decision. We would pursue the cult of the dragon along the way that they were transporting wealth, and we followed the road into the swamp itself. The road's pretty good. They're doing a good job over there. Their wizards are making a road meant to last a while. And eventually we came to the town of Westport in the middle of the swamp. Cobbled together place, really. We met an elder named Georg who kind of told us about the town. And we noticed that there's an awful lot of wealth going through there and the goods belonging to that fop in the over in Waterdeep, Celebon. And in all those goods, more smuggled wealth from the cult. But we went to the tavern in the town, which is run by a dwarf, nice enough place, and he's a talkative chap. Told us a wee bit about what's the goings on around in the town. For the most part, they're pretty self-sufficient there, and we didn't have no worries. Ate well, drank well, got a good night's sleep, and then the next day we had to do it. Interesting thing, if you're going through a swamp, it's probably for the best you have one of two things. Number one, plenty of ways to keep the bugs off of you. And number two, a cleric who has the water walk spell. Made that swamp like walking through a pasture. We had very little difficulty going throughout and travelling through the day. Oh, and of course, made Leoman's tiny hut spell. We had a nice dry spot every night. So, when we left the road to go and make a direct route to Castle Nairtar, we had run across a group of lady adventurers fighting bullywugs. They mopped up the last of the bullywugs. They were quite accomplished adventuresses. But when we went to offer services and support, they turned us down. Turns out they're looking for something out in the swamp. They did not say what it was. I didn't think they were too keen on our presence either. The only thing for sure that I knew is that one of them at least followed the Goddess of Storms. And they might not have been as nice as we'd have hoped, but we weren't going to force a confrontation. Continued onward. And again, going through the swamp went fairly well. We were walking on the water in the water spots. We were walking over the quicksand in the quicksand spots. And on dry ground was dry ground where we could find it. Eventually, however, we found this cleared out area. Fairly good walking. But in the middle of it, we noticed a stench of death and decay. And this sickly green-yellow plant sticking out to the ground. Now, I'm not as much of a studier of nature, but something about that just did not feel right. Turns out our suspicions were correct. The thing was a type of impediment called a corpse flower. A mobile flower enriched in necromancy. It could feed on dead corpses of necromancers and gain a certain predatory intelligence. It could also heal itself by devouring the self-same corpses, or it could spit them out as zombies, and we had a bit of a fight on our hands. It had the ability to shoot out tendrils that would wrap around you and suck your energy dry with necromantic power. got to use my first fireball. That was entertaining, but for the most part we just hacked it up. It tried to retreat back to a pile of corpses to renew itself, but we did enough damage to put it down. I do not doubt that with all of the strange goings on in the Mirror Dead Men, there are more of these things. That's not something I'd like to go up against anytime soon again. So we continued on. Eventually, we found a group of what looked like hunter shacks that were kind of propped up. Only about 5 miles away from where we thought Castle Neritar should be by all that we had been told. So, in essence, we just took up residence in the shack, and I used my tiny hut around it so that, you know, it could be sheltered. And sure enough, turns out that the hut itself was actually the property of some lizard men who came upon their shack and found us there. Interestingly enough, they were led by a common-speaking lizard man named Snapjaw, who proved to be quite chatty. I think he realized that if we were out in the mirror that far, that we were something to be taken seriously, so he treated with us very fairly. Turns out that he and the other lizard folk in the area have been in the employ of the cultists, working as their guards and porters, but they have recently stepped up their work and acquired the services of a group of the natural rivals of the lizard folk, bullywugs. These bullywugs' population must be quite high, as they're roaming throughout the swamp as monsters, as well as working in a large number at Castle Neritar for the cult. So, we made a bit of a deal with Snapjaw, who speaks highly in the lizard folk rank. If we were to lead a signal, they would rise up and attack the bullywugs for us. Well, for themselves, but it works tangentially with our ideas. And then we could make the assault against the dragon cult, who the lizard folk have fallen out of love with. And we could then pursue the cult and hopefully get a hold of the mask. Well, Snapjaw was good for his word. He brought us to Castle Neritar in the morning after we had rested, and we saw many, many tents lined up outside of the castle itself that were temporary quarters for the lizard folk and for the bullywug in a separate encampment. I noted that discipline must be pretty strong to have two such enemies within eyeball distance of each other and not fighting, but there was no open hostilities to be seen. Their fear of the cult must be quite strong. I suspect that there are regular examples made of anyone who would be fighting between the two of them. So, Snapjaw brought us up to the Barbican, the proper gatehouse of the castle, and, with him vouching for us, we went right in. Encountered a group of bullywugs who actually dared to challenge us and try to get more treasure, and we barked them down pretty easily. From there, we had a straight shot to go into the castle itself, and without a great deal of initial scouting, we presented ourselves with the castle itself and a little bit of intelligence from Snapjaw, who brought us over to a tower dedicated to the services of the lizard folk. In there, they actually they have a forge and they're trying to use it, but they're no dwarves, that's for certain. So at any rate, Snapjaw told us how it was. Out of the 3 towers outside of the lizard folk tower and the central keep, the 3 towers were given over to the use of the cultists for sleeping and whatever else they do. There's one for their high leadership, and then there's the central keep, which is owned by the elf who basically runs this place for the cult of the dragon. And then there's one tower that is relegated as their trash pit. It is in disrepair, and they don't seem too keen on repairing it. Well, that seemed to be the obvious way that we should go. No guards or anything, but I suspected there might be something there anyhow. I was right. They had an Otyug, a trash eater. So the Otyug was happy just eating their offal and whatever other wastes. So when we went in, it saw fresh meat and attacked. On the other side of the room was a staircase going up. So the floor had sunken in, you see. So there was an actual pit with all kinds of... I don't like to think about what was down there, honestly. But from the smell alone, they'd been there in the castle for a while. Just saying. Fortunately, though, Vermilion got grasped by the creature but escaped. And Belphegor took a playful swipe from the creature as we ran by. But the rest of us were able to get up to the stairs, and it didn't seem keen on pursuing us. Honestly, those stumpy legs wouldn't have worked very good on staircases, let me tell you. So we got up to the second floor because we intended to go from that tower across the parapets to the cultist tower. The cultist tower did not have a doorway at the ground level, strangely enough. The only thing was, that tower was connected to a great hall, where when the castle was actually not filled with cretinous cultists, probably was a fine place to hold entertainments of all sorts. Quite honestly, when we purge the cultists from here, we might make use of this as a new base, honestly. It's got some nice things going to it. But at any rate, we go in and we find nothing. The whole tower empty, top to bottom. And we checked. Trust me, we checked. I don't know, Vermilion went through their belongings and everything, because that's how Vermilion is, but for the most part, everything was quite quiet until we went down to the ground level. We could either have gone down. Apparently there are some caverns that have been given over to the bullywugs below, and that's also where they keep an awful lot of the treasure. But we decided that we were going to go into the Great Hall, where all the cultists were, sorting out their ill-gotten gains. And they were led by an elf with a sword and shield. That guy right there that I'm going to kill. But at any rate, a grand melee broke out. Cultists so far that we've seen hadn't been all that impressive. However, we found some of their more experienced chaps. I guess they're called Dragon Claws. Well, we were kind of slow in reaping a harvest. I withheld my magic, because I'm looking forward to a grand fight with their High Cleric, and wanted to make sure that I could deflect the worst of her magics. We were doing alright when we had surprise, but those Dragon Claws, they took they absorbed a lot of beating. Quite honestly, if we didn't have Belphegor there dishing out a great deal of ruin with his sword, it would have been extremely slow going. We just couldn't seem to really lash into them like we would hope we would be able to. And again, I'm reserving my magic, just doing nothing but throwing cantrips out for the most part. Oh, I'd get a hit in and oh, there's a shield, blocked it, got my ward going. Malark, interesting fighting style, would hide behind me and then would dart out, stab a guy, run back. Did damage, didn't risk getting any injury, but didn't hold up one side of the flank either, so Kytheon got overwhelmed and just took a beating. These Dragon Claws have an interesting fighting style. They're trained to fight side by side, giving each other stronger attacks and a better chance of getting through your defenses by tying the other one up. So Kytheon took a beating even with his fine armor. Belphegor was taking a beating from those who survived long enough to do so. Even I took a few playful swipes against my arcane ward. Vermilion was kind of dashing around, throwing his arcane bolts here, there, and everywhere. Not being very, not hitting a lot of things at first. He tried to hit that elf, who it turns out, although he has a sword and shield, thought he was a spellcaster of some sort. Yeah. Kythian threw out his Spirit Guardian spell. Very nice spell. I thought it would really turn the tide of battle. And he went and counterspelled it. Well, I saw him do that. I counterspelled his counterspell. It's easy enough to do. And he didn't seem to like that very much. But then he cast Dispel Magic in the next round. I don't know. But he shut that down, which definitely put a damper on things. I myself, eventually I realized we were taking too much of a beating on these guys, and one of them had gotten out right away in the fight to go and get others, which is something we definitely did not want to do. But I don't have any wall spells yet or anything like that I could have kept them from doing that. So I threw a fireball down and cooked most of the cultists, damaged some of the others. Not what I wanted to do, but it was efficient. It wreaked a terrible havoc on the cultists and bought us some space. We mopped up the rest of them pretty well, leaving only the one elf, who was dancing around, freely and about, and trying to stay out the range of Belphegor. He actually cast a successful hold person on Belphegor and held him rigid even as he was about to go and wreak a havoc into his remaining Dragonclaw. I stood by Belphegor to protect him just as the High Dragon Priestess, the Half-Dragon, came in with a few more of their Dragonclaws. She saw us and realized the jig was up. She has a great sword that allows her to cast a Dimension Door spell. I recognized the spell, but I had to balance between protecting my comrades and attempting to stop her from fleeing. Honestly, if she had crashed into our fight, I did not know that we could finish it successfully. And a quick analysis decided that I had to let her go. I could not stop her. First of all, I couldn't guarantee that I could cancel that sword's effect. And secondly, that would leave me completely open to her casting anything else that she wanted into the fray. Had she cast a Spirit Guardian, for instance, it would have gone badly for us. And I have a suspicion she's the type to have such a spell. And me with no Dispel Magic today. So she left. Apparently, from what was it, Vermilion or Malark? Malark said she teleported into an underground chamber with summoning circles or teleportation rooms or something like that. So like as not, she's gone. Very disappointing, unfortunately. But she is just, well, that sword is an interesting gimmick, that's for sure. So we were mopping up the rest of their forces. The elf arcane knight threw down a web, which slowed down, I believe it was just Malark and Vermilion. And then the Dragonclaws threw in some alchemist fire to cook them, but they moved forward to slow us down. The elf ran off. He was in bad shape, just about a whisker's breadth away from death. And he turned and ran. Me? I moved up, missed a step beyond his guards, and I'm gonna kill that elf. Well, I'll certainly try. If it ends up badly that way, well, so be it, but if he rouses the entire castle against us, it's going to go difficult for us. So, that's where things stand. The elf is in front of me. I have to try to kill him. And hopefully behind me, the rest can take care of those Dragonclaws. I think they can. Belphegor's free now, and Kythian hopefully is healing people up to get them into a state to fight. I myself am fine, but I'm running low on spells, so hopefully Mistra's on my side and tomorrow smiles on all of us. And now I have to end this time stop spell so I can continue my pursuit, so wish us luck, everyone. I am Korbrecht Cinderflume, and I will speak with you again tomorrow willing.